When people talk about the best fighters in the UFC, the conversation usually revolves around championships, records, accomplishments, and legendary moments inside the octagon. All of those things matter when discussing greatness, but they don't automatically make somebody a complete fighter. A complete fighter is something different. It's somebody who can succeed regardless of where the fight takes place. They can strike with elite opponents, wrestle with elite opponents, grapple with elite opponents, and perhaps most importantly, they can adapt when things aren't going according to plan. The reason complete fighters are so rare is because MMA naturally encourages specialization. Most world-class fighters have a weapon that separates them from everybody else. Some build their careers around knockout power, others become dominant wrestlers. Others develop submission games that force opponents to constantly fight with caution. The fighters on this list have gone beyond that. These are the athletes who have spent years filling the gaps in their game until there are very few weaknesses left to find. Starting at number 10, Machado Garry. Garry's inclusion on this list will probably surprise some people, and that's understandable. For a long time, Garry was viewed primarily as a striker. The flashy movement, the footwork, the confidence, and the ability to manage distance naturally drew attention because those were the qualities producing most of his victories. As his competition improved, however, so did the rest of his game. His win over Michael Page demonstrated patience and discipline against one of the most elusive strikers in MMA. His victory against Carlos Prates showcased his ability to make adjustments against an opponent carrying serious knockout power. Even his performance against Shavkat Rakhmonov told us a lot about his development. Going into that fight, many people believed the grappling exchanges would expose major weaknesses in Garry's game. Instead, he showed composure, defensive awareness, and an ability to survive difficult positions against one of the most dangerous finishers in the sport. That's what earns him a place on this list. Not because he's the best striker in the UFC, not because he's the best grappler, but because every year he seems to remove another weakness from his game. The version of Garry we see today is far more complete than the prospect who first arrived in the UFC, and that's exactly why he belongs here. At number 9, Alexandre Pantoja. Pantoja might be one of the most underrated champions and contenders of the modern era. The flyweight division has always been filled with elite talent, but it rarely receives the same attention as the heavier weight classes. Because of that, a lot of fans never fully appreciated how complete Pantoja's skill set became during his rise to the top. The easiest part of his game to recognize is the grappling. His backtakes are exceptional. His scrambling ability is among the best in MMA. Once he establishes control, escaping often feels impossible. Those skills helped him secure victories over fighters such as Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, Steve Urquhart, and Kai Asakura. What makes him so dangerous, however, is the way everything connects together. Pantoja isn't a grappler who struggles when the fight stays standing. Over the years, his striking became increasingly effective. He learned how to pressure opponents without overcommitting, how to create reactions with his hands, and how to use those reactions to open opportunities elsewhere. When you watch his fights closely, it becomes clear that nothing happens in isolation. His striking creates grappling opportunities. His grappling creates striking opportunities. His pressure forces mistakes. Those mistakes create openings. The result is a fighter who remains dangerous almost everywhere the fight goes. That's the hallmark of a complete mixed martial artist. At number 8, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Few fighters have entered title contention with an aura quite like Shavkat Rakhmonov. Part of that comes from the undefeated record, part of it comes from the finishing ability, but what really separates Shavkat from many of his contemporaries is how difficult it is to identify a preferred area of combat. Watch one fight and you'll leave convinced he's an elite striker. Watch another and you'll start focusing on his grappling. Then he'll spend large portions of a contest controlling clinch exchanges and make you rethink everything again. His victories over Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, Stephen Thompson, and Machado Garry all showcase different aspects of his game. Against Magny, he demonstrated his ability to dominate a seasoned veteran. Against Jeff Neal, he showed resilience in a fight that forced him to deal with adversity before finding a finish. Against Stephen Thompson, he displayed patience and discipline against one of the most accomplished strikers in UFC history. Then came Ian Garry. That fight was important because it showed another side of Shavkat. For the first time in a while, he was forced into a competitive 5-round battle against somebody capable of matching him technically in several areas. He didn't dominate every second of the fight, he didn't need to. What mattered was his ability to make adjustments and find solutions. That's ultimately what complete fighters do. They don't rely on one path to victory. They don't need fights to unfold in a specific way. Whether the contest becomes a striking battle, a grappling match, or something in between, they're capable of adapting and finding success. That's exactly what Shavkat Rakhmonov has done throughout his UFC career, and it's why he earns the number 8 spot on this list. At number 7, Dricus Du Plessis. There might not be a fighter on this list who is harder to evaluate at first glance than Dricus Du Plessis. For years, people have watched him fight and walked away feeling like something about it shouldn't work. The movement can look awkward. The striking isn't always textbook. There are moments where it feels like he's breaking rules that coaches spend years trying to teach. Then you look at who he's beaten: Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya. Those aren't fighters you stumble past by accident. What makes Dricus so fascinating is that he constantly forces opponents into uncomfortable fights. Against Robert Whittaker, one of the most technically sound middleweights of his generation, he found a finish when very few people expected him to. Against Israel Adesanya, he became the first man to submit one of the greatest middleweights in UFC history. Against Sean Strickland, he showed he could compete in a technical fight over 5 rounds and still find ways to win. That's where the completeness comes in. A lot of fighters need a certain type of fight. Dricus doesn't. Technical, physical, chaotic. He can compete there. His wrestling is underrated. His grappling is underrated. His ability to create scrambles and force reactions is underrated. People spend so much time focusing on how unusual he looks that they sometimes miss how effective he actually is. Even when he eventually lost the middleweight title to Khamzat Chimaev, the fight reinforced many of the qualities that got him onto this list in the first place. He was forced into difficult positions, dealt with relentless pressure, and still managed to make adjustments throughout the contest. The easiest way to describe Dricus is simple. He wins fights in too many different ways to be considered a specialist. That's why he earns the number 7 spot. At number 6, Tom Aspinall. Historically, heavyweight has never been the division you associate with complete fighters. The nature of the weight class tends to reward power above everything else. One clean shot can change an entire fight, which means many heavyweights never need to develop the full range of skills seen in lighter divisions. Tom Aspinall feels like the exception. The first thing that stands out is how well he moves. For a man his size, the footwork is remarkable. There are fighters 50 pounds lighter who don't move around the cage as efficiently as he does. That movement creates opportunities for a striking game that is far more sophisticated than people sometimes realize. He's capable of leading exchanges, countering effectively, managing distance, and creating openings without relying solely on physical attributes. Then there's the grappling. Aspinall grew up around wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and it shows. When fights hit the mat, he doesn't look like a heavyweight trying to survive. He looks comfortable. More importantly, he looks dangerous. His victories over Sergey Pavlovich and Curtis Blaydes showcased completely different strengths. Against Pavlovich, he demonstrated speed and striking precision that few heavyweights can match. Against Blaydes, one of the strongest wrestlers in the division, he showed that his game wasn't going to fall apart the moment grappling became a factor. What separates Aspinall from most heavyweights is the fact that opponents don't get to choose where they're safest. That's an incredibly rare quality at heavyweight, and it's why many people view him as the most complete heavyweight currently competing in mixed martial arts, and also why John Jones ducked him. At number 5, Alexander Volkanovski. If this list were based purely on fight IQ, Volkanovski might be sitting at number 1. The former rugby player turned UFC champion built one of the most impressive careers in featherweight history, and he did it by constantly finding answers to problems that other fighters couldn't solve. What makes Volkanovski such a complete fighter isn't any one skill in isolation. It's his understanding of how all the skills fit together. Throughout his title reign, he defeated fighters with completely different styles. Max Holloway brought elite volume striking, Brian Ortega brought dangerous submissions, Yair Rodriguez brought unpredictability and creativity. Each challenge required a different solution, and Volkanovski consistently found one. The Ortega fight remains one of the best examples of completeness you'll ever see. For long stretches, Volkanovski controlled the fight with his striking and movement. Then came the submission attempts. Many champions would have panicked in those positions. Volkanovski escaped, recovered, and returned to winning the fight. That sequence alone demonstrated several of the qualities that define complete fighters: composure, adaptability, technical awareness, and the ability to remain effective when things go wrong. Even his losses helped strengthen his case. When he moved up to face Islam Makhachev, he showed he could compete with one of the best grapplers in the sport. He didn't win, but he proved that his skills translated against an elite opponent in areas many people expected him to struggle. Then came his return to featherweight, where he reminded everyone exactly why he had spent years sitting at the top of the division. Volkanovski doesn't overwhelm opponents with one extraordinary weapon. He overwhelms them with answers. Every problem they present seems to have a solution. Every adjustment they make is eventually met with an adjustment of his own. And when you're discussing the most complete fighters in the UFC, that's exactly the type of athlete who belongs near the top of the list. At number 4, Arman Tsarukyan. Ever since his UFC debut against Islam Makhachev, people knew there was something special about him. He lost that fight, but he pushed one of the best fighters in the world far harder than most people expected. Looking back now, that performance feels almost prophetic. It was the first glimpse of a fighter who would eventually become one of the most complete athletes in the sport. The easiest label to give Arman is wrestler, but that label stopped being accurate years ago. His striking has improved dramatically. His footwork is excellent. His ability to transition between striking and wrestling is among the best in the lightweight division. More importantly, he understands how to blend those skills together rather than treating them as separate parts of MMA. His victories over Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira highlighted different aspects of his game. Against Dariush, he showcased his speed, power, and ability to capitalize on openings, and he knocked him out with a knee right to the face. Against Oliveira, one of the most dangerous submission artists in UFC history, he demonstrated composure, awareness, and technical discipline during grappling exchanges where a single mistake can end a fight. It was a close fight, but to go toe-to-toe with Charles in the grappling is not an easy feat, considering how Holloway didn't have a single answer for Charles's grappling. What makes Arman so difficult to prepare for is that opponents rarely get the fight they want. If they focus too heavily on defending his wrestling, his striking becomes a problem. If they focus on striking, they create opportunities for takedowns and control. The deeper you study his game, the harder it becomes to identify a clear path to beating him. That's exactly what a complete fighter looks like. At number 3, Petr Yan. There are technically gifted fighters, and then there is Petr Yan. If this list were based purely on technical refinement, there would be a very strong argument for putting him even higher. The first thing people notice is the boxing. The combinations are clean, the timing is exceptional, and his ability to make reads throughout a fight is among the best in mixed martial arts. What separates Yan from many elite strikers, however, is everything happening beneath the surface. His defensive wrestling, balance, and understanding of positioning is phenomenal. More importantly, he knows how to make adjustments. A lot of fighters enter the cage with a game plan and stick to it regardless of what happens. Yan approaches fights differently. He spends the early stages gathering information, identifying tendencies, and building solutions to problems in real time. By the championship rounds, it often feels like he's fighting a completely different opponent than the one who started the contest. His victories over Aldo showcased his ability to systematically break down elite competition. Even in some of his losses, particularly the razor-close fights against elite opposition, his technical ability remained obvious. What makes Petr Yan special isn't just what he does, it's how efficiently he does it. There is very little wasted movement, very little panic, very little recklessness. Everything has a purpose. That's why he remains one of the most complete fighters in the UFC. At number 2, Ilia Topuria. There are very few fighters in the history of the sport who have improved their reputation as quickly as Ilia Topuria. What started as a promising prospect eventually became one of the most remarkable championship runs we've seen in years. The victories alone are enough to tell the story. Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, 3 elite fighters, 3 future Hall of Famers, 3 completely different stylistic challenges. And yet Topuria found answers for all of them. The knockouts receive most of the attention, and understandably so. The power is real, the precision is real, the confidence is real, but reducing Ilia Topuria to a knockout artist completely misses what makes him special. Before the knockouts became the headline, he was already an elite grappler. His jiu-jitsu credentials were respected long before he became a champion. His takedown defense is exceptional. His balance is exceptional. His ability to maintain composure under pressure is exceptional. The reason he ranks so highly isn't because he's unbeatable. It's because there isn't an area of MMA where opponents feel genuinely comfortable facing him. You can't simply wrestle, strike, or even pressure him. Every option carries risk. That's what separates complete fighters from great fighters. The best complete fighters force opponents into impossible choices, and very few fighters in the sport do that better than Ilia Topuria. At number 1, Islam Makhachev. If this list were about the greatest fighter in the UFC, there would be arguments. If this list were about the most accomplished fighter in the UFC, there would be arguments. When it comes to the most complete fighter in the UFC, however, Islam Makhachev has the strongest case of anyone in the sport. What makes Islam special isn't that he's the best striker in mixed martial arts. He isn't. It isn't that he's the best wrestler either, nor is it simply his grappling. The reason he sits at number 1 is because of how seamlessly every part of his game works together. His positional awareness prevents opponents from taking advantage of mistakes. His decision-making consistently places him in situations where his strengths become amplified and his weaknesses become increasingly difficult to find. Throughout his UFC career, we've seen him defeat elite strikers, elite wrestlers, elite grapplers, and elite champions. We've watched him dominate the lightweight division. We've watched him move up in weight and capture a second championship. Every step of the way, opponents have searched for weaknesses and repeatedly struggled to find them. The best example of completeness isn't perfection, it's adaptability. The ability to solve problems, regardless of what is standing across from you. And no fighter in the UFC today solves problems more consistently than Islam Makhachev. That's why he sits at number 1. So that's my list of the 10 most complete fighters currently competing in the UFC. Do you agree with Islam Makhachev at number 1? Should Ilia Topuria be higher? Does Petr Yan deserve more respect in these conversations? And who did I leave out? Let me know your own top 10 in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you might think, and it lets me know you'd like to see more breakdowns like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.